It's time for the Double Stop with Brian Sword.
Welcome to the Double Stop Podcast. I'm Brian Sword. What you heard off the top of the show was a short snippet of the track I'm Insane off Ratt's Out of the Cellar album. On there, it's credited to Robin Crosby. Now what you're listening to is the original demo version by a band called Mac Meda. This band also had Robin Crosby, but also had Rob Lamothe, who went on to the Riverdogs, and a guitarist by the name of Ronny Jones. It was never credited on the Ratt album, but they're the three people who actually wrote it. On today's show, we're going to change it up a little bit. We're going to talk to Ronny Jones. You may not have heard of him, but with a few different bounces in his career, you probably would. We're going to talk all about the lawsuit that happened because of 2 tracks on that album, of which he was a writer and he was never credited, along with his other band called Black Bambi, who were signed to Atlantic Records in the 80s and had their first record produced by Beau Hill, but because of political reasons, it was never released. He's going to walk us all through a little bit of the dark side of the 80s music business, and we're going to hear all about his story, which you've probably never heard before. I always start the same way. Where are you from, and what kind of musical family did you grow up in?
I was born and raised Southern California, grew up in San Diego, and I've got 2 other brothers, and both of them are musicians too. And my mom, she's artist, pianist. My dad was an electrician, but they were always supportive of our music from the earliest I can remember, watching Ned Sullivan, seeing the Beatles as a kid and stuff. That's music has always been a huge part of my family. So then my older brother, Rusty, was actually had a local hit down here. They were called the Monroes. They toured with Rick Springfield in the 80s, right at the heyday of his thing. So their hit was called What Do All the People Know, which they just re-released that stuff. So I don't know if anybody up there knows it, but it's weird. They had regional areas where it was a big hit. Like New Jersey was one of them, which is odd. It's huge there. Mm-hmm. So so anyway, that's where my family, my musical background comes from.
Now, I have spoken with Todd Howarth, and and he told me a little bit about Coco Blue, which you were a member of. Let's hear your side of it. What was the Coco Blue experience in San Diego?
Well, for us, I was just still in high school, I think, when we first started that. And we were just a really good cover band. Excuse me. Still morning. And we worked a lot. I cut my teeth because everybody in that band was a really good player when they've gone on to do really good things since then too. But we worked every single high school gymnasium in the area. We were like the cover band before there was like a big deal for cover bands. So I made money as a kid playing, which it's hard to do that when you're in a city like this where there isn't a whole lot of stuff to do. But we were actually really good. People would go, "Oh my God!" And Todd's a funny guy because he's very self-taught and he's very, very musically complicated and gifted. So his musical language is way different than normal, and he'd tell you that too. So it was a really fun thing to try to learn from each other, but playing covers at the same time. So Todd's a really cool guy. We're really good friends.
Obviously, things are picking back up for Todd with 4x8, which there's been photos all weekend of their first rehearsals, so that seems to be going pretty well.
Yeah, he's been knee deep in all that stuff because we were going to do some work before he left, but he just got too busy. So, and I get to work on some of that stuff with those guys too, that him and John were doing for that. It's like a Kiss cover thing, I think, that they were doing that. So we recorded some stuff and I mixed some stuff for him here.
And you also worked on Coal Beach, right?
Oh yeah, which you worked on as well.
That's right.
Yeah, that was a mad rush to get that thing done so you guys could shoot that video.
And that tune came out great.
Yeah, it was put together really quick, but it came out pretty cool. I was really proud of that, and the video's killer. Everyone that sees that loves that.
Thank you. Now, so let's go back to Coco Blue. So obviously there's a lot of, in that area, a lot of names that run off. We've got, Todd's in it, and then you went off to your career, which we're going to talk about. And then you had Jason who went off to Chicago, and there's just a pretty big name, big group of names for a cover band. And then how did that band come to an end?
Everybody was growing up, and at the time I wanted to do more rock stuff, and Todd was really into like Steely Dan and more sort of jazzier stuff, which he later has told me, he goes, dude, I don't know why I didn't listen to you. But that just, we were all growing apart because he was still growing, and I just I've always been like sort of like a blues based rock guy.
Yeah.
And Jason, we kind of, I can't remember because it's been a long time, but we had a few different bass players that came and went. The nucleus was pretty much all the same 4 guys, but then the bass players would switch out sometimes. But it was just, we just got older and moved on, and couldn't, I don't know. The other guitar player, Lewis, unfortunately, I wish he would have gone somewhere. He's one of the best guitar players I've ever seen or worked with. The guy's just phenomenal. And the drummer, Bob Sale, even though he's people have heard him play, but they don't know who it is. But he's done sessions with a ton of people. He was in that movie, The Wonders, the Tom Hanks movie. But that sort of like the Beatlesque movie that he did.
Oh, That Thing You Do.
The Thing You Do. Yes, thank you. The band was called The Wonders. But
right.
Bob actually played a lot of the drums on that. The soundtrack.
Oh, I had no idea. That's cool.
Yeah, see, he's done a ton of sessions and stuff. He's a very in-demand guy, and he played on Cool Beach too.
That's right. We're
still in contact, and then Jason's still doing the Chicago for the last like 30 years now, I think. And then so yeah, and then I ended up moving to LA, and so did Todd and Lewis. They had a band up in LA for a while in the early 80s. And everyone kind of floundered up there for a while until it finally took hold. And then he moved back down. He started getting his gigs working with Ted Nugent and stuff. And then I moved back up there in the later 80s when it was more hair bands.
That's right.
It was on fire then when I moved up. It was really fun though.
So what happened when so you left, Coco Blue breaks up, and you moved up to LA, maybe perhaps a little later, but what happened next?
Yeah, after that, that's when I started, towards the end of Coco Blue, because we were kind of like sort of off and on. Would get hired to do some gigs, would play and do some stuff, but I was also playing with Robin Crosby from Ratt. He had a band called Phenomenon that was really popular in the beach area, La Jolla, where he was from. And that was my first taste of like real rock down here, because they played all UFO, Kiss, stuff like that, and I never really played that style before, even though the UFO stuff was really fun for me to play. Never played Kiss before, except we played like Rock and Roll All Night and Coco Blue, and we just made fun of it. We didn't like it. We thought it was silly. But then I got an appreciation for all that stuff when I started playing with Robin, because it was like, wow, it's powerful, it's fun, and the kids love it. So then you feed off that too, and it's like, wow, okay, it makes sense to me now. There's girls coming to the shows.
And that helps.
Yeah.
What was Robin like to be in the band with? What was he like back before Ratt?
Well, any of those guys that knew him back then, he was a character unto himself, because he was like 6'6" or something, big, tall guy with flowing blonde hair. And even though that's the way the image is later, but when he graduated from high school, he had this lime green satin suit with a matching satin.
Awesome.
The best part is that he had a matching turban a green satin turban that went with, which made him look even more. And he would wear the green satin pants and the turban and no shirt and walk down the beach like it was like normal. But everybody knew him that way. And he was like, he definitely was a guy that he marched to his own parade, you know, but that's what made him cool and also weird. I mean, he had his demons even back then, but he came from a really affluent family. His father was a National Geographic photographer, like super respected. And so he shot some promo shots for us back then too. But, you know, Robin was always getting into trouble too. We called him Rob then, and he would give nicknames to everybody. Nobody had like a real name. Everybody would. We called him Cabber because he had so many cabinets. He had orange cabinets most of the time, a whole bunch of them. So it was Cabber, Cabron. He gave me, and I hated it. He gave me the nickname Wimpy because it was working at a burger joint for a while. And so it drove me crazy. But the funny story about him, the first time he called me, it was early in the morning, and he's like, "Hey, what's going on?" I'm like, "Hey, what's that?" He goes, "What size hoof do you have?" I'm like, "Excuse me? What size hoof do you have?" I'm like, "What? Hoof? What size shoe do you wear?" I'm like, "Oh, okay, 10. Why?" And there was some. He goes, "Yeah, there's some clothing shoe store down here that catered to pimps, and so they were closing out all their stuff and their platform shoes. So he wanted to he's the one that turned me on to the platform shoes back then. So I ended up with these like ginormously ridiculous platforms because he was all in about, you know, the show and the whole vibe. And we all wore these Shemenda fur hip hugger bell bottom pants with our platform shoes and stuff. And that was my first meeting with him, but that's the way he spoke, like that, you know, like, "What size hoof do you have?" He was full of that kind of stuff. And then later we ended up, I did the Coco Blue thing a little bit longer, that split up. And then I did a couple other little gigs that I hated. And I remember at one point somebody going, "Oh, that Crosby guy, he's worthless." And I went, "No, he's not. That guy's going to be a star." You know, the other musicians were like, "No way, he sucks." I go, "He may suck, but he's got that it thing. He's got the drive, the desire, and he had the blinders on the whole time. I mean, he told his dad, 'Look, I don't want to go to college, so rock and roll is my college. So can I have my college fund to fund a band?" And his dad said, "Okay." And that's how we started this other band that the photos are in. He hired me and Rob Lamothe from the Riverdogs, because I was in a band called Aircraft for a while too, after Coco Blue. They're all kind of mixed together in that little period. But we wrote songs together that he really liked. So he wanted to bring us in because Rob was also a great front man, really good singer. And then we had a bunch of songs, and he didn't have that much material. So that's why they brought us in to his whole college project.
Yeah.
And that's literally because they said, "Okay, well, we have this X amount of money, and we're going to get you some amps and stuff, and we're going to build this whole thing." And then we did that. We rehearsed and recorded some stuff. And that's where the two of the songs that ended up on the Ratt record, we recorded demos down here of those. And then we ended up moving to Manhattan Beach in south of LA at Robin's brother-in-law, his sister's house, which is a whole nother, there's some silly stories there.
I bet.
Well, because we had 5 guys living in Manhattan Beach is like a sort of affluent area. Yeah. And we're a rock band and all crammed in this house with his family, and him and his wife had planned this trip to go to Europe and stuff. And he told Decker, was his name, and he said, "No, you guys got to be low key because neighbors around here, they're not going to, you know, appreciate you guys, a bunch of long haired hippies." And one of the days before Decker had left, Robin had gone out and partied way too much, and he used to sleep in the living room because there was only so many bedrooms in that house. That was he like had like a a sleeping bag kind of thing. I forget what it was. Anyway, that's where he used to sleep. But he went out partying one night, and for some reason, he was in a blackout, I guess. And he went in the garage, pulled out a tarp, took off all his clothes, and proceeded to go to bed in the front yard. So Decker goes out, as he put it, it's like 6:30 in the morning. The sun's coming up. There's dew on the grass. Birds are tweeting. And there's a 6'6" naked guy laying in the front yard
On a tarp.
and a tarp, and the paint tarp is all stained. And Decker went up to him and said, "Is this what you call low key?" And the bummer was, if he would have taken a picture, it would have been classic, but he didn't. It was just that. There's a zillion stories like that with Crosby. That's just, he was always doing stuff like that, and he didn't do it on purpose. It's just the way he rolled, which, probably is what added to his demise. It's just, he was always partying, doing something like that, doing some crazy stuff, but just still going forward with his rock. The rock was always side by side with all the other craziness.
When I think of Ratt, in terms of the guitars, I think of Warren. He was kind of the guitar hero. Now,
oh, that's right. Yeah.
What was he like as a guitarist?
Well, then I'll backtrack a little bit. Towards the end of the aircraft band I was talking about, Warren was actually played with us for a little while, because I used to teach guitar in La Jolla, and so there was all the kids would talk to each other, mainly young boys, but they would. So I kind of knew all of them, all the newer, young, and up and coming guitar players in that area.
Yeah.
And everybody kept talking about Warren. Oh my God, he's insanely good. And he had to have been about, God, I think around 15, 16, because we had to drive him around. He didn't have a driver's license. And we brought him in because he was so good. And he would follow me around like a puppy dog, because I was, the older, experienced elder. And he's the sweetest guy, just super, super nice, and super talented beyond his knowledge, I guess. You know what I mean? He was just so inherently talented. Mm-hmm. But eventually we ended up having to break that band up, because then we ended up playing with Crosby. So, and then Warren kind of floundered around doing other stuff too. And he got more edgy after he got older, because when we played with him, he was just a innocent young pup that we tried to defrock him while he was with us. Yeah. Because that was, and I don't think, I don't want, because we did, the aircraft was really popular too. And there was we'd have like a lot of groupies that were kind of hanging around. And since he was so young, he was like, God, I want to, that one girl's so cute, so cute. I'm like, well, just go up to her and talk to her. And she just shot him down in flames. And then that just made him feel like, I suck. I'm horrible. It just like, oh, dude, that's just the way it goes. So, yeah. But he's always been super, super good.
Now, what about Robin? Again, everything's always about Warren. How was Robin as a player? I really couldn't say.
Well, he's kind of, from a guitar player standpoint, he's kind of hit and miss. I mean, he was really good with coming up with some like cool riffs and stuff. It wasn't a great soloist or anything like that. And his meter wasn't the best either, but he was all attitude. And there's a lot to be said for that. It's like Keith Richards, sure. He's technically he's horrible, but he's Keith, and that's why in Ratt, since Ratt was so produced, if you will. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's some of his vibe kind of got lost in that, because he's actually was more of a field player, more, I'd say, like AC/DC-ish, kind of just heavy on the downbeat kind of thing. That's just the way he was, and really good at it. So once we would lock in on stuff, it would be really cool. But he was always he's the kind of guy too that he used a lot of effects when he would solo stuff. I think it was to kind of mask the lack of skills. But it was all attitude, 100% attitude, which was really cool. And that's how going back a little bit too, I know I'm jumbling around here, because actually when I was in junior high, before even Coco Blue, I played with Stephen Piercy in a band. Yeah, when he was trying to sing, This is way before Mickey Ratt and all that stuff, because
Yeah.
he was literally, I think I was in junior high and I think was in senior in high school or just graduating. We were playing like BTO, Led Zeppelin covers and stuff, and he was horrible. He was really bad. But we played a gig. It's some, I don't know, I forget what it was. It was an outdoor thing, and my dad used to have a little PA that he would lug around, and I wasn't able to drive at that point. I think it was like 14. So he did the PA, and we got paid in free beer, even though we weren't supposed to. And after we played, Piercy went up to my dad and said, "So what'd you think?" And he said, "The band is good, but you stink." I thought, "Oh, dude, Dad, why did you say that?
Yeah.
That's not cool when you're a kid and you're playing with the older kids."
Yeah.
But it was true. It was really bad. And but that's the thing. Steven learned how to work it. Like, it took him some time to. He's another guy who had the desire and the drive to make it work.
Yeah.
Even with he's not the best singer in the world, but he's just attitude. And the guy's exactly the same as he was when I grew up with him in Claremont. He is a street rat. That's just the way he is.
He's got the unique voice too. That's half of it. You can have a gifted technical singer, and see, I look at somebody like, and I love him, but Jeff Pilson is a technically very gifted singer, but his voice is not terribly unique. There's and then you got somebody like Steven, who may not be the most technical singer, but you hear him sing, who it is. He's got something very unique sound tonally to his voice, and that goes a long way along with the frontman kind of swagger.
Yeah, it's the character in the voice. And I didn't hear the whole interview, but when you spoke to Beau Hill, a lot of the stuff, like when he worked with them, he really helped Steven develop his sound on record. And you hear the records where Beau didn't produce it, and there's a big difference in the tonality. And I talked to those guys on some of the techniques that they used when they recorded with Ratt, and it was like, oh, now it makes a lot of sense. But and in sense live too, he's learned how to work that into his whole thing. So he's become more. The confidence is a big thing too with singers too. When you're not confident, it just goes out the window.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, but it's the same with guitar players too. But singers is a big deal. It's a really big deal. So I'm with you on that one. I think that I like the rough around the edges singers myself way better than the pure clean ones. I like them too, but I'd rather have like a Rod Stewart voice over. I'm trying to think of somebody that's all like Steve Perry. Steve Perry's really good too, but just different.
Yeah, exactly. Different and safer.
Yeah, I mean, they can hit the notes and they can sing like a bird, and that's what's killer. But when you can have that unique tone to your voice,
yeah,
the raspy stuff. But I love it when a singer will try to reach for a note and not quite get it sometimes, but that it works with the song, and that's what you want. That's that's where the magic is.
You mentioned it briefly, and I want to take a little bit more out of you first, but let's talk about the two songs you wrote with Robin and how they ended up on a Ratt record. Because I don't think people know this. No, that's back when the band was called Mac Meda, MACMEDA, which was a stupid name because everyone said it was Mac Media. No one understood what that was, and it was only named that because there was a group of guys, and I won't dwell on this long. In La Jolla, there was the Mac Meda Destruction Company. It was just a bunch of hoodlums that got together, and they even had T-shirts made and stuff. And there's some of those guys that are still around. And it was strictly a La Jolla thing. And they're like, yeah, let's use that name. And like, okay, whatever. It doesn't no one's going to get it. And they didn't. So anyway, during Robin Crosby's college education, when we went and recorded these songs, we used to rehearse at basically a storage facility. Because those were when they would still allow you to do that. We rented out a space, and there was a few bands that played in there too. And we wrote some of the songs Rob and I had already had. Robin Lamothe and me had some stuff, but then Crosby came up with this riff, this little thing in A, and we're like, "That's cool."
So we kind of vamped on the riff, and then I said, well, we need to go somewhere with it. So I added a change to it. Then Lamothe threw some lyrics in there, and I said, well, how about I'm insane? And then we kind of went with that theme, and we were all throwing some lyrics around. Cool, we got a new song, yay! So we recorded that, and it's kind of a similar thing with the scene of the crime. So we did all these demos. We had like a couple other songs on that tape, and there's around town. There's people send me that stuff all the time. I got a copy of the cassette. You want it? I'll send it to you privately. I'll see if I can dig it up, and you can hear it's exactly the same, pretty much. And I'm insane.
Great.
And so these 4 songs. Then we moved up to Manhattan Beach after we tracked these things, and we were trying to get a record deal, and that was what they were for. So that's why we went up there. But eventually the band was just imploding because we weren't going anywhere. I think we played like 1 or 2 gigs. We played at the Troubadour once, and it was just, there was no forward movement at all. So me and Lamothe just said, dude, let's get out of here. This sucks. We had no money, no nothing, no signs of anything moving. And like Crosby had to pawn his guitar to pay bills and stuff. And it was just getting ugly. So we said, well, we're going to go. And then Crosby said, well, can I play those songs? And we're like, sure. I don't care. We might play them too. But yeah, that's fine. In his mind, that meant, can I have them? But that's not what we wouldn't have said yes to that. He just said, can I play them? And so later on, fast forward to the 80s, and the first record came out. This is actually the second, but their Atlantic release came out, and me and Lamothe were like, what the heck is that? And there's no credit, no nothing. We never got a call, never said, hey, we're putting these on the record. It's, what's your publishing company's name? Nothing. And so then we went, it's probably not going to do that well anyway. And then it just kept selling and selling and selling. And by the time it hit like 3.5 million records, we're like, this is just not right.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that we were trying to be greedy. It was like Rob Lamothe and I we wanted to be songwriters. That's what our whole thing was. The rock thing was cool, but we loved writing songs. It was like, well, that's our ticket in. Is, when you have writing credits on records that sell 3 million copies, that'll get your foot in the door really easy.
Yeah.
A lot easier than anyone else. So anyway, with that, then it turned out that Rob Lamothe's father had it just inherited a ton of money from his mother passed away. And he said, well, I can help. I'll front money to get you guys a lawyer and see if you can, figure this out, which we did. He got a lawyer on retainer who lived in New York and would fly out here on our dime and did it. And it literally took, I think, about 3 years. And I was early on when it first started, we just wanted to get credit. We weren't so much about the money. It wasn't about money.
Yeah.
I was teaching at Loya Music, and I got a call because Ratt was playing in town that day, and they said, hey, Ronnie, somebody's on the phone for you. And I go, who is it? It's Warren DeMartini. I went, what? And I picked up his phone. He goes, yeah, I'm at the airport. We're just leaving. Why are you suing us? I'm like, we're not suing you. It's suing Robin because he's the one that stole the music. No way, dude. You're suing all of us. And I was like, oh no. Because it wasn't a personal thing. It was just about, our career kind of thing. So I thought, oh no, that's not good. Because I didn't want to have any bad blood with him.
Yeah.
That's actually, I haven't talked to him since, and I've talk through people. But anyway, since 3 years is a long time when you're doing music and stuff, and I since moved up to LA, got in another band, and that's the Black Bambi. I started that after Aircraft because me and Rob parted ways because we weren't going anywhere either. There's a bunch of stories there too, but when I left and I found my band got a record deal with Atlantic Records too. And then we were looking for producers, and we just decided to go with Beau Hill. It was going to be Paul Winger, who Kip Winger's brother, was going to produce, and Beau was going to executive produce. And it was just when Robin wanted to settle because we're just about ready to go to court, like literally within months, the court date. And we'd done all these depositions and I had like a mountain of paperwork, just ridiculous stuff. Cause the lawyers were just sucking the blood out of everybody on his end and our end. The lawyers were making tons and tons of money, just stalling. So the day we had to go to his office to settle. And that's the last time I saw him. It was uncomfortable and weird, but it was kind of over. But we were told that we were going to get credit. They said, well, the life of the record's pretty much over. This is like before CDs even. Mm-hmm. And we said, well, okay, yeah, we get that. Because it's like, well, we're not going to pull every copy and, re-put it on there. But we were told that we were supposed to get credit from later on, which turned out to not be the case. So that's how I learned a lot about publishing and songwriting, even more of like, well, just because you say you wrote it doesn't mean you did. And when people send in your stuff to the copyright, like in the US anyway, that doesn't mean you own it. It just means you sent that letter in that day. So, because people just go, well, it's all copywritten. So it doesn't really mean you did it, because they sent in the copyrights to all that stuff. So we had to prove like, no, this is what happened. They did depositions of the other musicians that we played with. And it got ugly and stupid. And I think that was just because of lawyers. But the scary part for me was we were just about ready to do a record with Beau Hill, and Beau Hill had produced that record. And I didn't know how tight he was with those guys. So we had to keep it really quiet until after it was settled. We were done. And it's like, okay, now I can tell Beau that I just sued the band that, he just did. And as it turned out, he was really good friends with Robin, but there was some funky blood going on between the rest of the band and Beau. Because, Beau worked his ass off for those guys and pretty much made their career. But they looked at him like, no, it would have happened without you. Mm-hmm. Difference of opinion. But, if you listen to the records, you can tell Beau really took them to the next level. So that whole thing was a big learning experience, big growing up in a short period of time about that stuff and the songwriting, publishing end of it, as well as the politics.
If a lawsuit like that happened today, everybody would know in about 3 seconds. But right. in the 80s, without the internet, nobody ever heard. And you could actually sign a Beau Hill and he could somehow not find out about it. It's amazing to me when you look at it now when there's no possible way.
Well, locally, the thing is there was a few other musicians too, Jakey Lee being one of them, mm-hmm. that was from down here too, who played with those guys as well. There was in another, I don't know if there was a band called Rough Cut, mm-hmm. that was from down here too. And Amir and, not Amir, but the bass player, I just saw him online this morning. Anyway, they had written some stuff with them too. And those guys kind of got paid off. Like they had a Jackson endorsement. So they gave Matt, I think they gave him a bunch of basses, and they gave Jake some stuff too. Just to like hush money, I guess, if you will. But there's actually other writers that were on there that should have been credited too, and they weren't either. Oh. So I don't know whose decision it was to just, make it look like the Beatles or something. I don't know. But it was weird. And people that knew down here in San Diego area that had seen us live, they're like, dude, that's not cool. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? It's like, well, we're trying, mm-hmm. but it's not that easy. It's like, and he had, Robin had his lawyers too, telling him what to do. So they're out on the road trying to make a living. I get that. So it was that they were swept up in the 80s thing too. And like you said, the internet, had it been like that then, it probably ended up a lot quicker, mm-hmm. saving, the lawyers would have been happy though. Yeah. Because those guys, because at the end of the day, then I'll bring this, that's one of the things I wanted to say is because the lawyer, like our lawyer, for example, I think if I recall, the settlement was for like $150,000, which is way less than what the royalties would have been. Mm-hmm. But I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And at the end of the day, the lawyer pretty much got about 100,000 of that. And then the rest of it was between Rob's dad, Rob Lamothe's father, and him, and then I got a little chunk of that.
You didn't get any money, and you still didn't get any credit.
No, and still don't get credit to this day, which is the pisser, and that's where I told you it was in the wrestler movie, and Lamothe sent me a message and went, "Son of a bitch, we didn't get credit again," and it's in an Academy Award nominated film, and we're like, really? But I know that Piercy didn't make much money off that, I'm sure, but it's the fact, like, really, here we go again, and we're both of us like, you know what, we'll just move on and just keep going. Not gonna cry over spilled milk now, but I mean, it's still annoying because you tell people, it's one thing to say I did that, and they're like, oh yeah, where's your name? It's not on there. It's like, yeah, I know, I did though.
Sure you did.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I can prove it because because that's what's funny. When you hear the tapes, you'll go, oh my, it's like exactly the same. So anyway, so there's that whole thing, and then now we're getting into the Beau Hill land.
Yeah, which again, when you gave me just a brief little taste of it, and again, it blew my mind. So let's move into that. So, okay, you've moved past all this. You've made your agreement with the Ratt guys. You're in the studio with Beau Hill. It's 1989. You're on Atlantic Records. And what happened?
Yeah, we were shopping a deal for quite a while, and there's a guy that Rob Lamothe and I had done many demos with. His name, he passed away last year, I think. His name, Carter. He wrote a bunch of hits in the 60s. He did Incense and Peppermint, and he produced like Sammy Hagar's first record and stuff. And he was like my mentor. And he eventually said, as he put it, well, I'm the one that asked you to dance. So he signed us to Atlantic because he was on Atlantic, or on the A&R for them at the time. And we had been shopping for, like I said, for producers. And so most of the producers that he was sending us were just like, these guys are awful. These records are horrible. And then our management suggested, well, what about Beau? Because he had just done the Warrant record. And we had the same management company as Warrant. And we're like, oh, really? No, I don't know. But then we realized he had such clout at Atlantic that was probably a good thing, because at those days Atlantic was signing everybody and everything. And it was like the spaghetti test. They throw it against the wall. If it sticks, they follow through. Otherwise, let them go. And they were signing a bunch of crap. So we figured that was a good way to go. So we had a meeting with him. He came to see us rehearse, and he kind of liked it, and he helped us actually work out a song. And he went, okay, cool. Well, this is what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to have Paul be the producer, and I'm just going to oversee it. And that was great. But then once we started working with Paul, we were doing all the pre-production work, he would come by, and Beau got more and more excited. And he's like, wow, this is really good. Because we were a little bit different than his other stuff. It wasn't as poppy. It was more sort of Zeppelin-y, riffy rock at the time. We were way more raw than what our record ended up being. But he got more and more on hands. And by the time we actually physically went to the studio, poor Paul was just shoved aside. It kind of sucked because Paul was like a really good friend of mine. And but it all worked out. Paul's a great vocalist guy. He did a lot of, you hear him in all, like the Winger records, the Ratt records, Warrant. Paul's in there. He's doing the background vocals and all that stuff. And he would orchestrate a lot of the background vocal parts for Beau. So we were in the studio, and it was funny because we talk about Warren and stuff, and the joke of the day was, because when you work with Beau, he was known for bringing in gunslinger guitar players.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah.
And so they would joke around and go, okay, Jones, you better get it together. We're gonna have to bring in the sesh cat for you. And we were even, I had a picture of Reb. Is it Reb Beach? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just knew him as Reb. So I had a picture of him taped on the headstock of my guitar as a reminder. It's like, if I don't do my job right, this guy's gonna come in and take my spot. And it was like, we had so much fun working with Beau. It was pure fun, recording part of it. Some of it, the production part of it, was we butt heads with that. But he's one of the nicest guys ever. He's such a cool guy to work with, super knowledgeable, and deep history in music. That's what made it work, I think, with us. And he would talk about the Ratt stuff and how they like layering Piercy's voice and stuff like that. and they layered him like 5 times to get that sound. And so trying to think where. And so anyway, I'm going to cut to the chase a little bit more. So we finally finished our record with Beau, and he was really behind it. And when we first started that, Atlantic, our budget was, I think, $25,000 to make a record. With Beau, it ended up being about $250,000, because with Beau, he can use any studio he wants, so that's fine. So we ended up recording at this place called the Enterprise in Burbank, which was like $3,000 a day, and we were there for like a month, every day. So after we did the record, it was supposed to come out shortly after that. We shot an album cover and had meetings with the label, and it was going to come out, I think, in August, and we finished it right at the new year, I think, of 1990. And then they put it on hold. Beau and they said, well, we want a single. This record's too good. We got to have a single. I'm like, what? Really? Now? So everything was in motion. We'd been working hard promoting it to the radio people. So they go, no, we want one more song. Let's do a single. So literally I would write every single day, and I was sending him demos like constantly. I'd get our singer over. It's like, Steven, come on, let's do this. And we started just getting pissed because we'd send him stuff that we thought was pretty cool. No, it's not a hit. So then I started going, okay, well, I'm going to send him something that sounds just like Winger, just because I was pissed off. So I just copy a bad Winger version, send it to him. No, not quite. And we wrote some crap. And then I started writing some lyrics that were just, I was angry at him, like, because it's like, you're making money, you're still making records, and we're sitting here waiting. And finally, literally almost the year, they picked a song. It was like sort of a ballady kind of thing. It was like, oh no, are you kidding me? And our release date had come and gone. People kept going, well, where's the record? I thought it was coming out in August. And like, no, they held it up because they want a single. And it was getting really ugly. And in all this time, the higher ups at Atlantic and New York had changed hands. So our A&R guy got fired. He was gone. So we had a different A&R rep on the West Coast. Then the East Coast people changed hands. And now a guy named Jason Flom became the head guy. And as it turns out, Beau Hill was married to Fiona at the time, who had big hits in the 80s and just duet with Kip and stuff. He married Fiona, but Jason Flom had been dating Fiona when Beau was working out of Atlantic in New York. So there is some bad blood between them. So anytime we wanted to get something done from New York, it was just, he hit a brick wall. And anytime that Beau liked something, he would try to kill it. And we were Beau's pet project at the time, because he was really hoping it would like change things. And he was also just starting to try to get a deal with Interscope. He was actually, people don't know this, but he was one of the co-founders of Interscope Records with Jimmy Iovine. And they kicked him out right away. I don't exactly know what.
He talked to me pretty extensively about that. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he claimed it was a lot to do with some of the musical direction towards more hip hop, and that he just wasn't into it.
Yeah, and he was supposed to be the rock guy.
Yeah.
But then which was kind of funny because it was still a viable market. They were still making money at it. But so anyway, I'm going to we did our single. It was literally almost to the year to the day that we'd finished the whole record the first time. We did the single. We went into the studio, recorded it in the weekend. Actually, I thought it wasn't that bad. I thought it was I liked the song for my own personal reasons. But anyway, and the band had gotten so much better because we'd been working for a whole year.
What were you doing for that year? When you said working for a year, were you touring?
Yeah, we toured a little bit. We did a little thing with Badlands on the West Coast. We played with them. God, they were one of the best bands I've ever seen.
Oh, totally.
The sound checks with those guys was just mind blowing because they'd come off. We were doing a thing in San Francisco, and Ray gets out of his van, his got a Coke in his hand. He goes up the stage and just kills it. And we'd sit there at sound checks just going, oh my God, these guys are so good. And I never even talked to Jake the whole time until the very last day, because I didn't want to, like, he's kind of a strange cat. So I didn't want to, like, you know, vibe him out and go, hey dude, remember me? But it turned out he did. But, so yeah, and then we worked a lot in Hollywood. We played the Palace a bunch of times and just worked and worked, promoting the record that's supposed to be out in August and stuff. And it sucked because we were full bore ahead. The band was really getting good live and no product. It's like, we're out here just sort of pissing in the wind because there's nothing for you to buy, even though we're trying to promote it. And so it was like spinning the wheels. So funny story though, we were playing the Hollywood Palace, which is a great venue. And the first time we opened for Badlands, they didn't, because they were on Atlantic too. They threw us on the bill, but we weren't on the tickets and stuff because it was a last minute thing. So the kids out front, there's a curtain there and they're thinking it's going to be Badlands. They're expecting Jakey Lee, and the curtain opens up and I'm right where Jake should be standing.
What the
and
fuck?
The kids, they're looking at me and they're seriously, the front row, there's kids, they were just flipping me off. Like, who the fuck are you? Where's Jake? Because our singer kind of looked like Ray Gillen. Not nearly as good a singer, but he kind of had that look. So at first glance, I could totally see where they're thinking it's Badlands. And we were Black Bambi, so there's a B on the drum, the kick drum.
Yeah.
But we got really good, so you know, we knew how to work a crowd. So by the end of the show, it was like, whew, oh, we made it. And we won them over. But at first it was intimidating for me, like, holy crap. I'd never experienced that before, where they're that angry, looking at it like, you son of a bitch, you stole Jake. So that was funny. But then the other subsequent shows went smoothly, and we wish we would have played more with them. They were actually mad at us because our management company, because of Warrant, they got us a tour bus, which was unheard of. It's like, we're nobodies. Our record's not even out. It was a crappy bus, but we had a driver and stuff. And when we went up to San Francisco and Oakland and stuff, those guys were like, they were in a van. They're like, what? We're on our second record and we don't have a bus. So they fired their management and tried to get our management company after they saw that. It's like, screw them, man. We want a bus. Which by the end of that, then they really got sick, and then they fizzled out for them too. So, but once the back to the record thing, once the single was complete and they were they remastered the record, which was better because we didn't like the first one anyway. They did it, sent it to New York. No, we don't like it, so we're gonna drop you. We're like, exactly. And we were trying to get picked up. Like, Beau was trying to get us on Interscope, so we had have an escape valve there. And there's some new material that we had, and they were like, well, they want you to go do a demo for Interscope. And we're like, look, we even did a showcase for Jimmy Iovine just for him at the Whiskey in Hollywood, which was weird. It's like 3:30 in the afternoon, full stage thing, playing for one dude. It was just odd.
Oh yeah.
It's playing for a musician. I'd rather play in front of 10,000 people than one. It's just hard. It's really difficult. So to get in the vibe, you can't get any feedback from the crowd. So he's like, I don't get it. And then it became, well, nobody wanted us because what's wrong with them? If Atlantic doesn't want them and they were so hot, what's wrong with them? Like, they're thinking it's some sort of inner turmoil. Everybody's a junkie or something, but it wasn't that at all. And we had such good vibe from the radio people, because the way it used to work in those days, you had to work all the radio reps across the country to get your stuff on the radio. It's like they'll do deals like, okay, we'll give you the new Robert Plant if you throw in Black Bambi 2. We'll give you exclusive Robert stuff. And they would have to do stuff like that. There was still payola going on, but they would have to do it in sort of different ways. And so that's why I would literally go down to the Atlantic offices in LA, and we would make press kits and stuff to send specifically just to them, the radio reps across the country. And I would send out like these weird random, we had like this Celtic symbol looking thing that we used to use for our sort of a logo. And I would send out just that on a piece of paper and just mail it to them. So they'd get it and go, what's that? And then
Mystery.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. And then I'd, the next 2 weeks later would send another thing with that and like maybe your band name. And we would do that to get their interest to go, what the hell is this? Because usually they're so used to getting the usual slick, poofy hair picture, glossy stuff. And it's like everybody's interchangeable. So I wanted to make it different. And that was like my goal. It's like, I've got to make this work somehow. So I'd just I wasn't working. Luckily, I'd gotten some publishing money. So I was like, okay, I can do this. And I'd go down there all the time in their face, do anything I could do to make it work. But it just didn't. It was all for nothing because in New York, they just decided, no, I don't think so. This is going to. And it was deflating for Beau, us, everybody that worked on it for all that time. It sucked. And then we ended up. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want you to be clear on why you were dropped. Because you said, oh, we don't like it, we're dropping you. But this all comes back down to that relationship, right? And Fiona, doesn't it?
Right. Because there was no, we weren't given verbally, well, yeah, we want to screw Beau because, he took my girlfriend away from me. But it was very clear that what was going on. Once Jason became the head of it, Beau knew that's what he was doing. It's because this was Beau really took it on his own and pushed really hard. Although I think the fatal mistake is you should have let the record come out when it was meant to come out the first time.
Yeah.
I think that's what kind of really screwed things up personally. But by that time, then Jason's like, okay, now I can finally get even with you, you son of a bitch. And I'm just going to take your baby that you are really into and just, squash. Oops, sorry. No, done. So it became apparent. It's like, oh, really? So then by that time, that's when we, at least me personally, I'm like, I'm so sick of this crap now. Because you try to play the game, you try to do the best you can because you want your art to get out, and then it just doesn't. And especially what's frustrating too, because we found out later, we weren't even told that they sent out singles to the to radio. And we're like, what the hell? I bought one on eBay for like $1. And my drummer found one a few years back. He found the whole album that was sent out. They didn't even tell us they did that. Oh, wow. Because there was a disconnect between the label and the promotion people and the powers that be. So there's, because they did the artwork for the record and stuff, and they sent it to us, and it never really was fully approved. I mean, they had all the lyrics and stuff were on it. We were just about there to get it all going, and that's when they first pulled the plug, and then finally after the year, then we did this single, which was the death knell for us. And then that's when Jason decided to pull it. And subsequently after that, then the records that Beau did, then Nirvana hit, and then it just kind of all went to hell in a handbasket there too. But we would have been the bridge sort of in between the two, even though our stuff had a lot of the typical Beau Hill drum sample, snare sound, and the background vocal part, which that was all Beau. Our stuff wasn't really that much that way before. He slicked it up a little bit, which was cool and bad at the same time, but at least he didn't make me play hoodly solos like a lot of the other guys did. He let me like do what I do, which was really cool. So, and that's one thing working with him. He would work hard with the singer a lot, but he's a really good diplomat. He knows how to, work people in a good way. But if you cross him, then he'll bite you back. But he knows how to get the job done, and he does it well. And he had a good group of people working for him too, like Paul Winger. Paul Winger was an exceptionally talented guy. Still is. He just doesn't do it anymore. But I wish he still did.
I think he did a record with Kip a couple years ago.
Kip did it. That was his other brother.
Oh, it was his other brher.
Which he's got a younger brother, Nate.
Nate, that's right.
Who actually, they sang background vocals because they were all in a band with Beau too in Colorado, in a studio back then. And those dudes are funny. That's why Nate's crazy and Paul can be crazy, and then Kip was kind of like the intelligent, quiet one. but he was crazy too. But he never showed it that much.
Yeah.
But and they're like brothers, back then especially too. But they Paul did like a lot of the solos that you've heard it, but not a lot of people haven't heard it. He worked with me. We were in another studio doing overdubs, like solos and stuff, while they were doing vocals in the other studio. So we had, that's why one of the reasons why it was so expensive, because we had like 2 studios going at the same time, which was fun. Because I loved the studio. So I was there every day, early, every single day, just to be there, just to watch how it's done and just soak it in. And I've always, because I love the whole recording process is fun to me. So just watching him, his little tricks and stuff that he would do. And he decided after we cut this, there's a song called 7 Miles to Rome song. Mm-hmm. We had already cut it, but there was a whole section that didn't have drums on it. And he goes, I want the drums to come in earlier. So I was like, okay, well, now what do we do? And that's one of the early days that the drums were on a 24-track Tate machine, but the rest of it was all digital on these big old funky Sony machines. And they had to bring in, we had two 24-track tape machines and 2 of the digital machines going at once, and he flew in the drums on the other section from another section in the song. So he dropped them in later, and it was trippy. We're like, holy crap, this is way before Pro Tools, because otherwise you just cut and paste, drop it in, you're done.
I was gonna say, this is all magical back then, and now it's about 5 minutes.
Yeah, it was nuts. It took all day to do that, because even though we did the SMPTE code stuff where that's how they could lock the stuff in, because some of the stuff we would actually use, he liked to put synth bass underneath parts to kind of fatten it up sometimes. So we did some of that. It was still the bass player's part, but he would just because Beau's a keyboard player, so he would just do that part of it so then they could sync it up later and stuff. So just to keep the time and sync stuff. But it was trippy watching that. We all had our video cameras out going, wow. Because they had to rent the machines just to get them in there, just to drop in that one drum part. That's the kind of stuff. I was all kid in a candy store for that stuff, because I loved all that. And then the backwards stuff, and loved all that. We had good times doing that stuff. So Beau was really into that. And he indulged me, like, can't we turn the tape over for that? Okay. All right, here you go. Let's turn the tape over so we can do the backwards guitar stuff. And that's, those little things that for a musician, it's killer.
Yeah.
So, but after the label, we got dropped, and then probably about, I'm going to say just like 6 months after that, I know I just said, I've had it. I can't do this anymore. So I just wanted to do something different. And the band kind of went our separate ways for a while. Well, we never did. I think we jammed once after that, but I'm still in contact with most of them except for the singer. He's off selling cars somewhere. But the other guys all, done other cool stuff since then.
How do you recover from that? Like, you got 2 songs that uncredited on Ratt. You're on a major label, gets turfed because of politics.
Well, okay. Let me add to that.
Great.
Carter that signed us. He after probably a year or so after, I produced some other demo, small indie projects for bands too. Since then, but then he went to Island Records, and he was going to sign this band from Missouri. And he goes, yeah, I want you to produce, would you want to do that? And I went, hello, yes. And so they came out to San Diego. We recorded a couple songs. Island said, yep, we're going to sign them, but they're going to sign on a producer. And I'm like, oh, please, God, please, I want that gig. And I called him all the time in Missouri and said, please, I believe in the project, because they were really good, actually. I thought they were really cool. So lo and behold, yay, we're going to make a record. So they came out here to San Diego, and we recorded the whole record. Me and my buddy had a studio in a house, and a bunch of kids from Missouri coming in. It's not LA. They went to LA a few times, but San Diego, they were like, this place has hills. There's like mountains. Missouri's flat. They were shell shocked, but they had a blast. So we did the record. They went back and they got mixed in Nashville. It was cool. Everything seemed to be rolling. They got their album, their artwork done. Guess what? Carter gets fired, and all the acts that he signed got dropped. So here I am again. The record's done. It's almost ready to go. So I went into like a major depression. I was like, why? It sucked because I'm like, you believe in stuff and you work really hard and then it just doesn't happen. And there's a lot of other acts out there that I know that's happened to. They do records and it doesn't come out. And then you think, well, there's all these crappy records are getting out there. I'm not saying that, ours was like amazing. It was just like, well, there's other crap that comes and goes, and then this one just sits there. At least, if you get it out, might make a few bucks back. So that was that. After that, I didn't want to do anything for a while. It took me quite a long time to recover from that because I just thought, I'm over it. Because it's something I was literally as a child, from as long as I can remember, that's all I've ever thought and wanted to do. And so that's all I would work towards, just do this, keep playing. So now that I'm older, I do it for the love of it.
So I know you're active again, and I think I saw you did a gig in San Diego a few months ago where you had a bunch of the guys you were in bands with before. Is that true?
Yeah, I did. There was because I had all this material and stuff that had been writing and recording and stuff on my own, and I went, I just want to play. I just want to play. So I called. It's the drummer from Black Bambi, Dave Casey, and he's produced. He's an amazing engineer now, and he's produced a bunch of small like heavy rock records and stuff. And the guitar player, John Morris, was in a band called Dig that had a hit in the 80s with I believe his name of the single, I believe. They were the MTV hit and stuff back in the 80s. And the singer actually his name's Trent, and he was a studio engineer, and he's the only one out of us that actually has a platinum record that he actually earned because he engineered Rod Stewart's songbook. The cool. First one.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, I didn't plan it, but at least I got it. So anyway, yeah, so we went and we were actually going to make a record, which we still haven't started yet, to have some of the stuff that we were playing. So we did did a couple of Black Bambi songs, like an old Aircraft song, a bunch of my new stuff. And so hopefully we'll actually get some of that stuff out in the next year or so.
Also, the Coco Blue record came out too, which is just
a
fun little cover album, right?
Yeah, which was done well, the initial sessions were the 2 days. We hadn't played together in like 35, 40 years or something crazy like that since we were kids. And it was Jason's idea. Let's make a record. Come on, man. Covers are in right now. Let's do a record. And I love Jason, but he didn't do any pre-work at all. He just like literally showed up. They were playing in town. Chicago was doing a gig. He comes down in there, grabs a bass and starts playing. It's a half step out of tune. And this is great. And the rest of us at least rehearsed like one time. We wanted it to be spontaneous, but at the same time, I don't remember Smoke on the Water all the way through, really. I haven't played it in so long. And some of the stuff we did, it was on the spot, but it was a lot of fun doing it. And then Todd and I did a lot of overdubs, cleaning it up because there was no vocals on most of it. So that's how me and Todd kind of reconnected and started working more together. And then he ended up doing the Cold Beach thing, and we've done some other stuff since then too. So we end up in the studio. We have a really good. He trusts me, so that's a good thing since we've got history. So I can tell. I'm probably one of the only guys on the planet that can go, no, that's not working, and he won't want to kill you. Because you know Todd now, so because Todd's the kind of guy where he doesn't take any crap because he's like the short, he's got the Napoleon syndrome kind of thing. He's like, and but I know him so well that I can actually go, dude, that solo sucks. Don't do that, dude. Something different. And he's like, oh yeah, okay. And he'll do it again. He goes, yeah, so much better. Thanks, man.
What's next for you? You're back playing again. You're doing some producing again.
I'm just writing and recording and trying to. One of the things I used to do back in the day, which I'm trying to get back into, is I used to do commercial music, like background music for games and stuff like that. And I used to do that in the 80s, and I stopped doing it because I wanted to be a rock star, and I kicked myself in the ass for not sticking with it, because it's really lucrative business to be in. So it's getting back in that's the hard part. And I love doing it. I love you telling me like, hey, I need a country background, and I'll just bang it out. So that's why I have a studio at home, and I record all the time, always writing stuff. And hopefully we'll get out and start playing again soon too. I do one-offs. I only do stuff that I want to do. If somebody asks me to do it, friends of mine have cover bands, whatever. They go, hey, will you come and play a few songs? It's like, if they're buds, yeah, I would love doing that. Eventually, I'd like to do some other stuff too, but hopefully we'll get some records out this year, and I'll be hounding you to promote that.
Absolutely.
When that happens. So, because I'm supposed to go to LA and work with that Dave Casey from Black Bambi to work on some stuff and some other stuff that he was working on too. And he said, let's get some drums for the JCM 800 stuff. And so that's what hopefully we'll be doing in the next few weeks.
Now, for the people who were very curious about the Black Bambi record, where can they hear it?
I had nothing to do with it. There's a bootleg. Ironically, somebody in Canada, I think, put it out, because we tried to get it released. We didn't talk about that. There was going to be a documentary about 5 years ago on that whole story and how that all came about. And we were going to we went to Atlantic to see if we could buy the masters back, and they won't let us do it. Really? It's like, why? Exactly. Yeah. It's like, really? Yeah. No, once they got wind that something might happen, then they're like, oh, nope, we own it. Sorry. Because we thought, but like, come on, you 10 grand, we can have the masters back. You're doing a film. No. So once the singer decided he didn't want to be involved, he was too many things going on or whatever. I don't really know what his deal is. He killed it. So we all just said, well, that's it. It's done. We'll never do anything again. So it's out there. There's YouTube videos that people have posted on their own. Nothing that we did on our own. Our bass player's brother just posted a bunch of videos of showcases we did. Oh, cool. Like before we got a record deal and stuff. So which was kind of interesting. And most of those were done. Those were the showcases that we got the deal from. My website, I have links to it. But you can give that out if you want. It'll probably be there for a little while. I was going to revamp that site, but there's stuff there. You can listen to it. I don't mind people sharing it, because it's at least somebody can hear it.
Exactly. Yeah. At this point.
Yeah. And then Fiona, I know you heard the track. There's the 7 Miles to Rome. Fiona sings on that.
I love that song. I thought it was great.
It really pissed me off at the time. It's like, I don't want some chick on a record. I was really mad. And the singer he was trying to flirt with her so bad. He's like, come on, Fiona, come on, sing. I'm like, you son of a bitch. And it turned out great. It was really cool. But at the time, I was not happy, because it's got to be us, just us, nobody else. Even though there's a bunch of people singing backgrounds on it other than us too. But we're all in there as well. So that made it okay.
Thanks a lot for sharing your story. It's fascinating.
It's my pleasure. Hopefully somebody will learn from my mistakes and get it in writing ahead of time.
And there it is, a conversation with Ronny Jones. What you're hearing now is the track 7 Miles to Rome, which we talked about in the interview. This is from the unreleased album by Black Bambi. Would it have been a hit? I don't know, but it's still an interesting piece of the history from the 80s rock. Join us next week when we'll have another new interview, and don't forget to subscribe on iTunes or Spreaker so you don't miss any shows.
Behind naked eyes, desensitized, I'm begging the rain to drown all my pain and sympathize the memories inside of me. I know they'll never let me be. You can't see me, you lonely feel me. 7 miles to Rome, 7 miles to Rome. archy hourglass. The future's like the past. The love that it breathes is what gets me through the day. I often wonder why we all must die. The closer I get, the further it slips away. You can't see me, no, you lonely feel me. 7 miles to roam, 7 miles to roam, 7 miles to roam, 7 miles to roam. 7 miles before my eyes. 7 miles before my eyes. As the sun grows cold, the book unfolds. I know, I'm gonna make